Hello, we're back. Are we live? I think we're back on.
Yeah, we are.
We are.
Hello, everybody. It's week 11 or 12, I think now. Lost track.
Lost a few in the middle. Definitely
We lost a few. We had a bit of a dip. Now we're back with a vengeance. So yeah, we've got just the two amigos this week. We'll dutifully take the mickey out of Miles for his absence at some point, I'm sure.
Where is he anyway? Where is the third? I only noticed when you said it, actually.
Oh, well, I mean, he adds so little value, to be honest. You barely even know he's here. But
Sorry,
yeah,
Miles.
he's too big time now. He's too big time for us. That's it. He's moved on to bigger and better things. But we are more than compensated by Lynn Graham, who has joined us. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for having me.
Not just HR director, but people function, I think, or head of people function.
Yeah, I think HR's just got such an awful connotation around it. And I started in the days when it was personnel, believe it or not. So I think people function is a bit more real. And because I look after health and safety and well-being as well, I think it's just a more inclusive way to describe everything that we do, because it's all about people. So I prefer that.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Before we dive in, so our preamble, obviously this is just our opinions and musings. We don't talk on behalf of Thames Water, although I am very on brand today. And we're recording it on Tuesday, the 28th of July. God, how time flies. And as always, we'll start off with a bit of a safety moment, which Lynn's got a particularly topical one you wanted to share with us.
Gosh, it couldn't be more topical. So my lovely husband of many years, it's just been going absolutely stir crazy. It's just the whole thing has just done his head in. And he has a small business, and he and his business partner like sailing. So we've got a sort of joint little boat out in Alicante Harbour. Wow. So on the spur of the moment, and it took him about 3 or 4 days to pluck up the courage actually to tell me, he booked a little jaunt out to Alicante. But guess what? He came back late on Sunday evening and we're now quarantined.
God,
so I am really, really cross. So he came back. So I spent Sunday sort of, frantically searching on government websites to think, what does that mean for me, being incredibly selfish? And I took some advice from Amy Kane, our occupational health manager, on Monday morning. And although he's quarantined, I have got to restrict my movements to essential shopping only. So I was going yesterday to meet Sarah Bentley, our new CEO, face to face. So I had to drop out of that. So it was just like,
someone's definitely in the doghouse.
So it wasn't big. But it was interesting because we immediately had to decide how we were going to deal with other colleagues who were in the same position. And because the government sort of slapped this on us, with absolutely no notice on Saturday evening, we thought it was really unfair that any colleague who was out in Spain or coming back, in the near future would be penalised by if they couldn't work from home. So we decided that anyone in that situation who couldn't work from home, we wouldn't make them take additional leave or unpaid, that we'd support them. But the big kind of warning, but hey, it's we've got to treat people equally, and it's fine for us lot because we can work from home even in quarantine. But if you're one of our field-based colleagues, then you couldn't. So that seems very unfair. So that's what we decided. But I think we're kind of back in the place that we were before the travel bridges and everything were sort of released, as it were, and saying that really, if you do travel abroad, from now on. If you are quarantined, you're going to have to sort of take it out.
Your own risk, I guess. Yeah.
No.
So it's fair enough, isn't it? You can't have a cut off to some extent.
I mean, the whole way through this, we've just desperately tried to be fair, because I don't want people who are field-based thinking that us lot who are sort of sitting in this bedroom for hours and hours and hours, are somehow more advantaged than they are when they're out and about and keeping us, in water and keeping the sewage all flowing. So I think, fairness is really important.
Just on sort of that, there's a couple of things I picked up on. You said right at the start, it's not just HR, it's well-being, and obviously during lockdown, it's been the biggest challenge to look after everyone's well-being. So I guess, how have you found lockdown initially, and how's it kind of gone? But also, how's it impacted your role? Because fairly new into Thames and having this to deal with, incredible.
Well, let's deal with the last one first, because I think. So obviously I was sort of 3 months in and just sort of finding my feet, and you have those first few weeks where you're out and about and meeting people and you're starting to formulate thoughts and the agenda. And I'm starting to build relationships with my sort of exec colleagues and obviously my own team, and then all of this sort of crashed in. And
straight there,
I think there were a couple of weeks where I think Carl and his team and Kate Sheldon-Smith and Rachel and Caroline, and it did feel as if the entire business went, right, HR and health and safety, what are we going to do about COVID?
Yeah.
Oh, right. So it really did feel as if, gosh, we've really got to respond. And then it was a big sort of joint effort. I think everyone really, really came together. And I think it certainly for me personally, it accelerated my sort of feeling belonging, feeling that in and of it all. So I think the relationships with the exec really, really came together, because we were just like boom, boom, boom. And that sort of accelerated our sort of team development. So I think, as I said, the first few weeks were just a blur, very long hours and just, decisions. But the whole sort of incident command structure that Steve and the team had put in place, I think really, really, just worked so well. So in actual fact, it was, in the end, I think our decision making was very effective, very quick and decisive. And I know that sounds mad, because decisions should be decisive, but, sometimes in the face of so much constant change, you can become a little bit destabilized, and whereas I think we actually sort of stayed on it, and have been very well recognised by the rest of the industry and government that the water industry really, really stood up and did its job as we should do.
It's been recognised internally as well. I think when we have had these conversations, haven't we? We certainly agree, and we've had a lot of people commenting saying they've agreed as well.
Yeah, and when it's funny, a lot of my world is revolving around public value at the moment. And when we first were putting that together as a piece of work, there was kind of a fifth strand of it, which was really about people and in the broadest sense. And it was decided actually that was BAU kind of activity for responsible business of our sort. But through my lens, I look at the extra dependence leave and the extra flexibility, even what you just said there about the leave, not penalising people for something that's outside of their control. All of these things we sort of stepped up in a very short space of time, which are going a bit beyond what you really kind of need to do, inverted commas. Like Akil said, I think it's been reflected by a lot of people how good the comms has been, how supportive the extra. There's been that real sense of being sort of held by the business, I would say.
There's just so much to think about as well, isn't there? Because everyone's situation is different. I mean, in our own team, we've just got several different. Some have got children, some have not. Some rely on grandparents to look after their kids, but they couldn't do that obviously during lockdown, and it was just so much. And then what about sort of personally for you, Lynn, as well? Because obviously we all have lives.
Yeah, we do. I'm really lucky. I've got a big garden, and you can see all my flowers. I'm a really keen gardener.
Very good branding. Very blue, I think. Proudly blue there.
Of course. Always on brand. My garden has never looked so good. Trust me, every 5 minutes I've been out doing a bit of deadheading, and normally I do that at 8 or 9 o'clock at night. So that's been fine. The big thing for me personally is I've got 3 children, young adults. They're all in their 20s, and they were all quite adversely affected. So thankfully they've all come out. So my daughter works as a charity. She's a fundraiser, and wasn't furloughed, was working from home to try and keep the money coming into the charity. But there's been a big redundancy program. Thankfully, she's kept her job. Then my two sons were furloughed, lots of sort of job anxiety. My youngest had a really rough time. And as you say, in terms of mental health and well-being. So dealing with all of that. But again, thankfully, my sons are out of furlough and have retained their jobs. So all three of them have come through, but it was quite bumpy at times, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of people have said one of the things they struggled with, apart from the obvious, you know, job security and stuff, was, I think this is still here to some extent. It's felt very horizonless. You know, there's been no. If at the start someone has said, right, you've got to do this for 6 weeks and then it'll all be okay, you can manage that, can't you? But when you've got job uncertainty, you know, I don't know if your kids have moved back home for a bit of extra support, or you've got kids, or you've got whatever, you know, and you're not sure how long it's going to last. I think that adds a real bit of weight to the mental strain as well.
It does. And the strangest thing for me was, you know, my daughter lives quite local, so she'd come and we'd, you know, be in the garden and having a chat, and very distant, and just not being able to give your daughter a
Yeah, it's really sad.
You know, for those who've got the children in the family, you know, and all the time, then you've still got that physical contact. But it was just weird. I got like, oh.
Yeah, it's been really heartbreaking.
Yeah. But we survived, you know.
I was actually thinking my nan used to be in a care home, and she kind of passed away about a year ago, but we rang the care home just because we were friendly with them. We used to go, so we just asked them how it's been, and then it really affected us. This was about a week ago, because you've got people there who can't visit their loved ones, and you know, if you're sort of elderly and stuff, you're just in your room the whole day, and it's must be awful. So it's impacted everyone, I think, from all levels.
Absolutely, and we all of us have a story to tell, of, you know, whatever sort of type of story it is. But it's been a strange time.
It has indeed. It's interesting. Was it your daughter you said a charity fundraiser?
Yes. Yeah.
So I just a bit of the work angle in here as well. So you might know we've repurposed our community investment fund to a kind of emergency relief, community relief. And so we've had a lot of NGOs and charities applying for a bit of help to get them through. But it's interesting that I think a lot of them have kept on their fundraisers, or tried really hard to bring their fundraisers back, because obviously, as you say, they're needed more than ever, really. You need to keep the funds coming in for all these organisations, so that some of them have emptied their war chest already, or their supplies. So I'm pleased to see that she's been able to stay on. It's amazing.
Yeah, well, she's quite resourceful, and a lot of her work is sort of supporting people doing sort of sponsorship, you know, London Marathon, all those sorts of things. And of course, all of that just went. So she's done lots and lots of online things to try and keep the money sort of ticking in. And I think that resourcefulness is one of the reasons why she's been retained. But it's
crazy, isn't it?
Yeah.
Are you just sorry on the whole lockdown thing? Are you quite, because you just mentioned it, 3 months in and the whole getting to know everyone? Are you quite sort of like proud of yourself, proud of the team, proud of Thames Water, and how we've supported, like, you know, all the colleagues across? Because we've done so much. I mean, you know, me and Henry we've talked a bit about it, about the flexibility and all that kind of stuff, but it's just been unreal, I think.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Proud is a word that comes naturally to me, but I started my sort of working career working for a company that had a very, very strong sense of purpose and community involvement, and it was a shoe company, Clark Shoes, they're Quakers, and that sort of you're in and of the community. I think was really informed me from the start of my career, and I started in retail operations, so I was a shoe shop manager, and and then went on and I think sort of when you bring that, when you have your own personal belief system is the same as the organization that you work for, then you can do really fantastic things, and that's where I've always sort of gravitated to. Now I have for tough commercial organizations that, trust me, wouldn't know a principle if the and I gained some experience from that, but then moved on, because it was just, there was nothing hooking me in. Whereas I think it's very easy to immediately get what Thames Water is about, and as you said earlier, you know, that sort of that purpose, I think, does make it all easier for us to, you know, to do better things, because you know why you're doing it.
Yeah.
So yes, I think everyone's kind of stepped up in whatever way they can. I think it's been absolutely across the board. I don't think you could single out any individual, any function. I think all of us have just, you know,
agreed.
Yeah.
building on it's how we sustain it. That's going to be an interesting thing.
That actually was sort of what I was going to move on to. Is you know, what are your reflections on your? I thought it was a lot longer, to be honest. I feel like, you know, you've settled in really well. But on your first 6 months nearly now, isn't it? And what your priorities are, what your challenges are, any good successes, anything you want to work on?
Yeah, well, in those sort of first couple of months, so I was really fortunate. I had a fantastic handover from Janet, and the very first month, which was December of last year, I was out and about. I was hardly in the office, and just chatting to lots of people. And very, very early on in my career, a wise old businessman sort of said, whenever you go into, you know, a new team or a new business, or you take over something, the very first thing you should ask is, what can I fix? It's really, excuse my language, pissing you off. You know, what is the piss off factor? And if you can sort that out, then, you know, you're off and running. And literally that's all I did, was talk to people and saying, what can I sort out that's really getting in the way? And there were a few things. There was a big piece from sort of female leaders about how difficult it was to have a family and then come back to Thames, and they didn't feel supported. And I think it was from females, but I think it was also a male experience as well, in terms of being a new dad. So that was one thing. The recruitment process and just how onerous it is, you know, multiple levels of approvals and slow. And the PDR process, who knew that an appraisal process could be so disliked?
Who'd have thought it? Yeah.
Who would have thought it? And the factoid that came out on that was apparently last year we had 8 formal grievances from people who disagreed with their PDR rating. Well, do you know what? So it's not doing what it should be doing, you know, in terms of people being motivated. So those were the first 3 things I heard about. So we put in place family-friendly policies. So we give that a good old scrub. Brought it all together as a sort of new sort of, and it's not just about maternity or paternity, it's about adoption, it's about carer responsibility. So it's much more general and intergenerational. So took that to the exec probably about February time, and that got approved. We decided we were going to sort of take a lot of bureaucracy out of the PDR process and have PDR light for this financial year, tick. And then the third thing in terms of resourcing, well, I brought someone in who I knew is excellent in this area, and we're doing a massive piece of transformation. So a new tech stack to support the applicant sort of journey as they come into Thames, through to a new onboarding platform. So that will be a lot slicker and a much better experience both for candidates and for hiring managers. So those are my 3 sort of quick wins.
Job done then, is it? You know,
sorry?
Job done then, is it?
Yeah, there's
Feet up.
more to do. It's all achievable. You know, there's nothing sort of scary. It's all doable.
On the kind of sort of onboarding and recruitment and stuff, I guess it's we've had a few people in our team join, and we've never met them, but it was all done. How have we found all that? Like, just like, why? I know how our team has found it, but generally, have you heard how have people found the whole virtual recruiting and virtual working even? And Henry, I'm keen to even get your own views.
Yeah. Well, Henry, you go first. What's your view?
What's been interesting is the new starters in corporate affairs that I've made. And we've probably had, I think, maybe 3 or 4 sort of in this period. What's been nice is that you've made a point of. I tend to do this when there's a new starter, but you've made a point of sort of saying, "Oh, hello, what do you do?" You know, and there's been an actual outreach. It's not been you join a team and they say, "Oh, well, those guys do that." You know, people have made a point of saying, "Oh, can I have half an hour for a chat to understand your area?" And you know. So I think that's been quite cool, and perhaps something that maybe we didn't do enough of before. I don't know. But a lot of them have also said in return, it's meant that they've actually got to know more people more at a faster rate than maybe they would have done.
Also, Teams is a game changer too, right? Because the whole video, I mean, we've done intros, but we've always done videos on, and in a funny sort of way, it says their name in the corner, so you kind of can't forget who they are. It helps. All this helps.
Yeah.
You know, if you meet 3 people on your first day, you're not going to remember which one's which. You know.
Yeah. My next challenge is recruitment. Actually, we've got a couple of vacancies to fill, so that'll be quite an interesting one, getting them in, I think.
I've done quite a few interviews through Teams, and if there's a couple of you interviewing, you can use the chat function surreptitiously to sort of say, what do you actually think? And so that's we need to explore this a bit more. So you can be chatting in an unobtrusive way to your co-interviewer to make the whole experience, I think, a very useful one. But I do think everything that we do around Teams tends to be very sort of transactional. It's how you put the sort of emotion and the sort of human interaction. So I think spending time, having that bit of chit chat before you delve into the questioning, you've got to keep reminding yourself that this is a human interaction, not just a transactional thing on a screen. But I've sat in on I've done one of our new virtual corporate induction. So I've gone on to that to have a look and see how my guys are supporting induction. And I've also done one of the Managing a Thames modules. Again, hour and a half, some really good thought-provoking content. We're now using sort of the breakout rooms in Teams, which is really, and in Learning on Tap. So, I think I've gone from I remember my very first all hands call back in January and doing it, to all of my team. And I was like, oh my
God, what is this?
So now it's like, fine, So I think we've all become a bit more adept at using the technology. But I think we're coping. It is this, I'm really interested in how we capture the best of what we've been going through and sustain it, and how we integrate this now with whatever the new world is going to look like. I think that fascinates me, looking forward now rather than back.
And that is a big bit of work being undertaken, isn't it? I assume you and your team will be involved. Is it the future ways of working we're calling it?
Yeah, the new world of work.
New world of work.
So George is sponsoring it, and we've just effectively, people who are interested in this have just sort of lent in. So we haven't done a big sort of who wants to join. It's just put their hands up and said, we'll have a go at this.
I think it's also a challenge that every business is looking at the moment. And we talked to obviously Kelly maybe a month ago, and it was all about how we've moved contact centres home and what the future holds for that. I mean, in my outside the Thames Water world, I host events in football and stuff. And, we used to get sort of about 100 people to our events. We're now getting 200 virtually because it's just easier for people. And people don't want to be in, these were in central London, but even if it was central Reading, people don't want to sometimes have to commute. And it's incredible how technology's changed the world, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's just hope the internet doesn't go down. Can you imagine? Just go back to the Stone Age. So.
Can you imagine?
Big dependency on the internet.
Now, Lynn, Akil has given us a wonderful segue point there to ask him about some obscure North London football team. But before I dive on that, you did say you might have a little nugget of a surprise. Would you like to save it right till the end?
Can you hear that?
Oh, here we go.
Oh, it's Wales.
Rugby. I'm going to educate you, Akil, into rugby rather than football.
Quite right, too. That's more like it.
I was born in Wales. You can't tell because I was brought up in the northeast, and yes, I'm a passionate Welsh rugby supporter. So that is literally the Welsh national anthem in Cardiff. and it just
What
every time.
Nothing like game day at the Millennium Stadium.
What's weird about rugby is I live very close to Twickenham, and my wife grew up literally on 5 minutes from Twickenham Stadium, so I pass it so much. But I'll watch World Cups and I'll watch the kind of the Six Nations and stuff, but it's never quite gripped me as football has.
So it sounds as if you're a rugby supporter.
I am, yeah. I'm a Wasps fan by Wasps/Bath. My dad's Bath. Yeah, Wasps.
Yeah. We used to go up to High Wycombe and watch Wasps, and of course now they've gone up to bloody Coventry, which is just too far, So
it has made it a bit of a pain in the bum to be a Wasps fan. The interest has dipped. I will confess.
But both of my boys played rugby, and my middle son to quite a high level, so I have that sort of. I love it and the passion and just that of it. Yeah. And as a mother, you're like, oh my God,
don't have a baby.
Yeah, I was too soft for rugby. I'll be very honest. I was, I only play sport in the summer, and
never get rugby back. I'm just how can we?
I forgot the Six Nations had sort of happened, had not. I completely passed me by this year.
So
we'll convert him eventually, Lynn. We'll convert.
Yeah,
but yes, come on, we must ask then. Arsenal did something quite impressive lately, didn't they, Akil?
Wow, they got to a record 21st FA Cup final. Yeah, Arsenal, the most successful team in the FA Cup history. But it even surprised the hell out of us because we all. So I'll set the scene. It was a couple of Saturdays ago. We managed to get my TV outside of the garden so we could have just a few people over. I know you can have a household indoors, but we just wanted it to be safe. So outdoors, I had a couple of friends over, which was nice. The first time I'd seen actually a lot of them because we would normally be going to games together. And actually, I realised how much I miss all that. But it was a game we didn't expect to win, so we thought, yeah, let's just do this. Let's go big. We'll decorate the place out there, and we kind of, got lots of beer in and thinking we're going to lose, so we might as well just enjoy it. We won. we beat Manchester City in a really good game. So we're doing it again, all of that again on this Saturday, which is the FA Cup final. So it's going to be very weird because we're used to going to Wembley for the FA Cup finals. But yeah, it's one of the showpiece events. It's on terrestrial TV. It's probably going to be watched more this year than ever, really, because with people, I know things have reopened a bit now, but generally people are still staying in a bit. So yeah, it's the weather looks good, so the garden will look good, and I can't wait. So thank you for asking, Henry.
Not a problem.
I had to wait 27 minutes.
Well, we got to slip it. Got to give the people what they want.
Yeah, I've even changed the background. You see, those two are shirts when we won the FA Cup. So I'm sure someone will notice.
Of course.
My Geordie husband, who supports Newcastle United, you have to be a real fan to support Newcastle.
Yeah, they've been through a lot. They've been through a lot in the last 10 years, really. But yeah, Well,
all right. Well, we'll wish Arsenal all the luck for the weekend then. I think
come on, you guys.
Steve and I will watch Arsenal. I'll watch and I'll be cheering for them. So there you go.
5:30 kickoff, BBC One or BT Sports.
Any chance of you being on the screen again? Are they still doing that?
No.
Did you hear about Akil's star turn?
Failed experiment.
Oh no! They were gonna. Was it the first game? They had some fans on social media so they could do their reactions in the stadium. Didn't work though.
No. There is one more thing, Henry. Actually, in our last vidcast when we had Lucy on, at the end of it, I announced that the Premier League season was going to come back on, I think, the 18th of September. Within seconds of putting the phone or the teams down, I got a text saying that is now being forwarded to the 12th. So, just in case anyone cares, I doubt anyone actually does, but if anyone does care, I did know it was the 12th. I did have a few messages.
There's me thinking you're the font of all footballing knowledge, and it's just nonsense.
Clearly not, mate. I just Google it and pretend and change it and pretend I know what I'm talking about.
Right, I think we're about on for time, aren't we? Nearly.
We are.
So I think we'll wrap it up and say thank you very much to you, Lynn. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for inviting me, guys.
Thank you, and good luck for the next few months.
Yeah. Take care.
We'll see you next time, guys.
Bye.